Yes, hello, and we are back again with Dance Gems. This is Sha, and we are going to talk today about Gem, dance from a different perspective. And you might think, hey, that sounds familiar. Yeah, that is correct, because that is also the title of Ton's book, um, uh, Dance Gem, Dance from a different perspective. And we're going to talk about that. So, and we cannot do that, of course, without inviting Ton in the show. So let me ask if he's there, and then we can start. Ton, are you there?
I am there, Sean.
Hey,
Nice
there
to
you are.
see you. Nice to hear you.
Nice to see you. Nice to hear you. Yeah, I was thinking this, Tom. We have now I don't know how many episodes of Dance Gems out there, and I think we explained where Dance Gems was coming from one perspective, but maybe some people don't know. It's actually that you wrote a book that actually started all this. So I thought maybe we should just do. It's an hour conversation about a little bit the basic principles of what GEM stands for and so on and so on. What do you think? Are you
Yeah,
ready for
perfect.
that?
Perfect. Yes,
Perfect.
yes.
All right, Don. Where shall we start? What why the word gem? I only know it as gemstones. Is there more to it?
Yes, gemstones. Yes. Yes. Gem is a stone, yes. And a very special stone, mostly. And it stands for Greten. That's my name. In Dutch, you say Greten. But Greten, equation, movement.
Or
And the
method.
equation stands for form,
Yeah.
dynamic, and expression.
Yeah.
Actually, I do it like that: form, expression, dynamic, fat elements, the FED elements, because, well, actually, dynamic would be the first one. So that's the equation. The
Mhm.
equation is like personality forms the form, the expression, and the dynamic.
Yeah. Sounds sounds. You almost lost me already.
Yeah, I
But that's
can
good.
imagine that.
Well, of course, I've been working with you for a while now. So it's GEM stands for Greten Equation Movement or Method. Huh? That good both can be. And it stands,
Yes.
and then the subtitle is Dance from a Different Perspective. And the top title is actually The Method to Shift the Way You Look at Dance. And I have it here, of course. I have the English version in my hand. We could easily also have the Dutch version or the German version, right? How old is the book already, Tom?
1 year now, exactly. Yeah, 1.5 year.
And how long did you
Uh,
work on it?
I worked on it 15,000 hours.
Oh my,
I started
oh my,
17 years back,
oh my.
and 15,000 hours on research and
Yeah.
1,000 hours of help of friends like you, Sean. You helped me a lot, and also the conversations. When I would take the conversations also, then it would be probably more than 20,000 hours. But this is
Oh,
the 15,000 hours. It's really the writing, the researching, etc., etc.
that's a lot.
And
Yeah.
you calculate how many days
Yeah,
or years
I
that
did.
would
I
be.
did. Yeah, I think I surpassed the 1,000 hours easily, to be really honest. But let's say it's 16,000 hours in total. That, my dear friends, would mean that if you would do something, you start today and you would do it without any pause, for 2 years in a row, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and you do that for 2 years in a row. That's how many hours went into this book. That's can you just imagine it for a moment, right? Can you imagine that you do something without any interruption? No peeing, no eating, no anything, just straight on research and talking to other people and translating and that's what Tom did. Yeah, you know,
Yes,
yeah,
the
15
book
hours,
changed my.
15,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
and and I just after our we always do this podcast in two languages, but after you did that, and I was actually curious, thinking, how many hours did I put in it? I think you owe me a lot, by the way, because it's way more than.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But it's that is a lot of hours. That is a
yeah,
lot of hours. So anyhow, kudos to you,
yes,
Ton. It's I'm joking about these things, and we started then the podcast Dance Gems. And just because that could also mean us, we are like, gems, but actually it reflects more on the people that we interview at times. Those are the dance gems. And so hence our podcast. So it's a kind of a double relation. Okay, you said
mm,
equation, and then very quickly you said F.E.D, and that's where you lost me a little bit, pretending that I don't know what it stands for, but it stands, of
fat.
course, for form, expression, dynamic, and personality, and you put that in an equation. So where do you want to
Yes.
start with F of form?
Um,
Hmm?
Actually, I could start now a small part of personality.
Okay.
Yes, that's a different attached now to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
Actually, when I wrote the book, it changed actually my life.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Good.
I I don't want to say I'm a totally different person now, but I have such a different view now on our world and our being
Mm-hmm.
for myself that I feed my spirit or my brain with constantly new research and new information, and it makes it holistic. And I discover myself also with it through the book, through nature nurture. That's a principle from the genes and the environment, how people teach you what you have to learn. And there it starts with it. I discovered myself on the 17th January 2021 at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I saw my whole puzzle from my little childhood till now, and I understood myself. And that's the most wonderful thing what can happen to you to know who you are. And it makes me now happy, and I'm glad that I be on that world and that I can have influence on other people how they could change their life by using the elements. So I try to inspire them through that one, and this is really, I think, beautiful. Also big responsibility and also a big challenge for myself. But it is worth if I can change somebody path and give the insights what I discovered. Um, that's a really big present for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yes. So we will start now with the form. Actually, um, I'll, no. Before I start with the gem,
Mm-hmm.
because actually I never understood what words mean or meant. It was dynamic, space, time, feelings, emotions, energy, power. I use these words, but do I know what they really meant of me? No, I didn't. Technique is also one word you use a lot in dancing, but also in the sport. I didn't know what it is. But now I know it for myself now, and I wrote it in a book after many research, and I'm happy with the World Wide Web because you can find almost everything. And if you combine that information, this is why you have also AI, um, something wonderful will come out, and you get a totally different view on it. So after I understood dynamic form, because form comes actually from forma, figura, from the Latin word. And when you look to shape, because in the English language you use shape, shape is something two-dimensional, and a form is three-dimensional. When you look to buildings in the architect world, you not speak about shape, you speak about the
The
form,
form.
and it's three-dimensional,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only pure English, the shape, and
The
the
word.
form,
Yeah, the
the
word.
word. Yeah, it's the word shape, yes. And when you
Mm-hmm.
look to other languages, like
Mm-hmm.
almost whole Europe and Russia, forma, it's almost in every language. Figura in every, almost every language. Of course, when you go to the Asia country, then it's quite different, of course, the language. So, and dynamic is dynamica. And when you look to expression, expression, something like that in the Latin. So I keep the words together in the Latin, so to be consistent. Otherwise, I would take a strange word in it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, yeah, there it starts with it with the form. But I didn't really understand the form, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
First, when I looked to the other dance forms, and then I realized how I came to form. Because my first steps, what I learned, that was a foxtrot in dancing, and I learned walk, walk, side close, walk, walk, side close, and it had a name. And when it has a name, then it's actually defined. And when it's defined, yes, that was the first what I learned, and I thought other dance forms will have that probably too. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
in the ballet they have that, in the hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
in the contemporary world, in the belly dance world, and all these dance worlds they have names for certain figures, and I call it then a form because when you say the name chasse, then people who mainly do dancing know what a chasse is. And that was the beauty of it. And I try to discover more of form,
Yeah.
and I go to the art world, in the architect world, in the painters world, in the design world, in the photography world, in the picture world. And what I discovered there, the common things there are geometric, organic, symmetric, asymmetric, singular, composed, and even they can also work with colors. That was very interesting. So I put these elements in the form, in the dynamic, and in the expression.
Let's see
It's
first
really wonderful. Mm.
if the audience is still with us, right? Because
Yes, 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 yes.
you
Oh,
used
thank you so much, Sean.
yeah, you used a lot of things, right? You know, you
Yes,
have
yes,
that
yes.
often with brilliant people; they throw a lot of things. So one of the things that Ton said in the beginning was, of course, words, right? And we saw, or you saw. At some point in time, we came together that a lot of people used the same word for different things, and sometimes they use a different word for the same thing, right? So the decision was made to use form more consistently instead of shape, because shape is first of all only in the English language, so that would not translate really well, and secondly, it is actually more 2D. Now, it's just an example, is what G.E.M does, and I hope you people pick up that book, is that it gives you a language, and if someone else also read that book, then you have the common language. So Ton and I always use this example. He and I can talk for about a chair for for hours, but if we did not define what chair we talk about, then we think we talk about the same thing, but we don't. So be now there a dancer with me, dear audience, and talk about the word technique with someone else. You think you talk about the same thing, but you don't, right? Unless you start to define what you mean with that word. Now, and that's what Tom did. Tom did looked at all these words that were used in the dance form. Sometimes he looked also outside the dance form and said, let's use consistently the same term for with the same meaning, right? And so that's one thing. And then he started to break it down in four big things. The first big thing is form, and he explained a lot about form. Then from form, Ton went, of course, to think about expression, and he put a lot of things on, and we'll talk about that later. What's under expression, and then he started to talk about, okay, what is dynamic? It's another good example. Is we actually saw that quite recently, where someone just used dynamic. No one knew what this person meant with dynamic, but Ton explicitly said in G.E.M, this is what we mean with dynamic. You do something else, you give it other meaning, that's your prerogative. And then last but not least, of course, everything comes together, and then he almost forgot how beautiful the colors are that he uses, right? The blue, yellow, and red, and if you put them all together, it becomes black. And black is just a combination of all colors together, and that's then your personality. And it's not that your personality is black or dark; it is just a
Yeah.
combination of all these factors. So that is G.E.M, what G.E.M stands for. Beautiful, beautiful method that I did. And then just a little funny thing, Tom. You said very quickly chasse, and I started to actually think as a dancer, I think that's nonsense. We use this word and then we say kaching. I just taught you something new, but actually we just combined the steps that you already knew, side, close side, and I can make any form that you want with only 6 or 7 different steps that you have. And then we give it a new name, and then they say, oh, we have a new figure. And that's not how Ton saw a figure or a figura. And that's when it becomes
Yes.
really interesting. Yeah. So, Ton, you
Yes.
were explaining what's more in form. You were starting to talk about geometric forms and organic forms. And now I'm listening again.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sean. Actually, a form has two elements.
Yeah.
Because what are the elements? Because I tried to get to the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. I tried to get to the real, to the core of it,
To the source. Yeah. To the core.
to the source. And actually, and Sean can also define it later. He said it beautiful in the Dutch podcast. Actually, we have only two elements. That's a straight line or a line and a curved. And these two elements put together, you get an how we say a form. And a design I will not tell because a design is more than a form. Because the design is a lot of more. And when I look to the standard here the standard, it has elements of straight and curved lines. And Sean said very nicely in the podcast in the Dutch one. Maybe you know what you said there from these two
No,
lines.
I have no idea.
No idea. No, you can make million combinations of it.
Yeah.
Million.
Infinitive.
Not more. Not it's infinity. So the combination of a straight and a curved line, and actually also the color, that's something extra because this is why I put blue, yellow, and red in it and black. The combinations of that one give give the outcome, the
Yeah.
result of it. So when you look to the pen here, yeah, the combinations of curved and straight lines and colors give, and the material in that case. But for a body, it's quite different. Um, yes, that gives a particular form. When I look to you, Sean, now, I recognize you by the figure, figura, the form, the three-dimensional form. And I can recognize you because you are one of a kind in that
I
world.
am one of a kind. That is for absolutely Sure.
Th-
Yeah,
this is
we talked about form, and now we say 3D. And for a lot of people, they say, "Oh my gosh, you can see it in 3D," and they think it's so magical, Ton. And we always smile a little bit about it because actually 2D is very unnatural. 2D actually does not even exist. 1D also doesn't. Those are theoretically models. And then they say, no, no, Jean, that is not true, because look at this piece of paper here. I can guarantee you, if we could zoom in very deep, you will always find 3D figures. You can go. There is you don't cannot feel it, but it's there. It's there. You have to think about it. It's a little bit mind-boggling. But Ton and I said, actually we do something wrong to the kids by teaching them first 2D, and then we try to make them do 3D. And Ton works a lot with kids. That it does not make any sense. And if you make them do, if you now ask on kids, can you make a 2D figure? They're all going to do this and make a really funny face, try to fit themselves in a 2D form, but they know it's not possible. But they just can try to express it. And it's so funny is that we do that. We're always 3D. No matter what we do, we're always 3D.
yes. If you try to look 2D, it's more frontal. That's what the
Yeah.
teachers
But
actually
also,
say. You
you could
dance
also do
frontal the
this.
whole time.
Yeah.
Yes, but 1D we would say length, and the other D that would be the width, and then the other D, the third D would be the height. But actually, what we are saying that everything has is 3D when you zoom
Yeah.
into it. So even when I stand flat and I would say, no, I dance too much 2D, then we know what we mean with it. But
Yeah.
if you not write it down what we mean with it,
Yeah.
then we could understand differently.
Yeah, dance from a
So
different perspective. It's 2D now. Look it, but if I turn around,
yeah, yeah,
it's clearly 3D, right? I look 2D,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
just turn around, different perspective. Look at the title. It becomes 3D automatically. Yeah, there is no
Yes,
3D.
yes,
There's a vision of 2D. Interesting
yes,
how that is, but it's so interesting to what you said. I think what you did is you look at it from a core, and that is what you try to do is break everything down to the core elements. So if you look at form, you can actually find only two elements, and with those two elements you can make infinity number of forms, which are straight lined or curved lines, right? And then in your book you
yes,
call it geometrical or organic. With only organic
yes.
lines, you can make infinity forms. With only geometric lines, you could do that too. But nature typically, most of the time, is not purely geometrical. That's another thing that you start
Yeah,
to explain.
correct,
Yeah,
correct. And Sean, actually, when I would zoom in to you to your inside,
yeah,
from the outside you look 3D, but from the inside,
yeah,
when I go small to your bone,
yeah,
from bone to skin, then the bones have a particular form,
yeah,
and the muscles have a particular form, and
yeah,
it tensions, say correct, they have a particular form
yeah,
where you can feel it, and your skin have a
yeah.
particular form. And
But
when you would zoom into that one, that's
yeah,
a little bit far away, but the
mm,
combination, what I want to tell now actually, in my method, I
yeah,
go from the big thing, the human
to
being,
this.
and then I go to the smallest detail. Then I find the smallest detail, and then I build it up again, and then I understand
Yeah,
all small details together.
yeah,
And if I not understand all details together, then I only understand the bigger part of it, and that's important. But I started with the bigger one, and then I zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom
smaller
in.
smaller element.
Yes,
Yeah, which
yeah,
is thing. And I was thinking about after our Dutch podcast, by the way, we said nature is probably, we said on purposely, probably not geometric, because the theory here is if we can zoom into the smallest part, that we actually only find geometrical forms. That is a little bit but might be true. We don't know that. Don't dismiss it yet, Tom. We always, challenge each other. Remember when I did this to you and say we
Yes.
see around, but it actually is built up of all straight lines, right?
Yeah.
So and that I'm just
It,
saying that.
it looks round.
Yeah,
It looks round, but actually, these are all straight lines.
they're all
And
straight
when I
lines.
do the fingers like that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
see the straight lines here.
Yeah, we see it.
Mhm.
If we zoom in again, so that's a little bit, the hyper focus, as they call it. If you could do that, maybe you will come up with, really smaller point. But then, of course, you can go deeper and deeper. But the thing is that Tom does that with everything. So we had forms, which could be straight and then could be curved. And then he said, "Well, how do you call it now when both are straight?" Or well, how do you call it when one is curved? And then you came to the next topic, which is called symmetric and asymmetric.
Yes, absolutely, Sean. Um, so when a form would be symmetric, and
Yeah.
I put my two hands up,
Mm-hmm.
and then I bend one of my hand, the fingers, then I have an asymmetric form from my hand because I also the wrist I bend a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but still in space it's still symmetric. So when I turn my arm up, then it gets more asymmetric. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, what is very interesting with symmetric and asymmetric,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just one part of it because you can zoom in endless on symmetric, and on one point it will get asymmetric.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting thing again, and you see it on. I did it on purpose, so to not to almost have a little bit at least the same discussion. You see that my jacket that I'm wearing is completely symmetric, right? It's symmetrically built. Now I can use it asymmetric,
Mhm.
but it is symmetrically built. But the designers of this thing could have done three lines or no lines or curved line on the other side. That's typically not what people like. People like often very asymmetric things, and one of the reasons is
Yes.
because we are built symmetrical. I have a left and a right eye.
Yes.
Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit
Yes.
about your discovery there. Interesting.
Yes. And can you imagine when you would be completely as a human being symmetric, both parts would be the same, left and right? Um yeah, that would be not that natural, but we're looking for that one for beauty contests and etc. But when I look now to you, Sean, and we will come up to dancing that you can make the correlation to what we talk now to the dance floor.
Yeah.
When I look to your hair, it's asymmetric because you put it to one point. So actually, when you put in the middle the hair to the left and in the middle to the right, then it would be symmetric.
Yeah.
Now it's asymmetric. When I look to your face, your spots there on your face, they are asymmetric, and I think that's the beauty of it to discover that one. You have two on the left side and
Yeah.
two and one on the right side or two, but they are different in space and in different in size. And actually, compared to left and right, they are not completely the same. And this is actually what happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's happened.
that
And
symmetric could be never complete exact the same.
same.
Even
Yeah.
if you zoom in, it
Yeah.
looks the same. And this
Yeah.
is why we call it symmetric.
Symmetric. And it feels more natural. If it would be exactly the same, you would actually see that if I would do that with a mirror, for instance, right? And you would see it exactly symmetrical, it would feel unnatural. I looked it up in our time from the last time. I couldn't remember the name, but there is a photographer, Gustav Willeit, and he did that. He manipulated pictures and made landscapes and people exactly symmetrical, and you have to look it up, and gives a very surreal feeling, but you know it's unnatural, but you cannot pinpoint what's so unnatural about it. So if my face would be and Tom's face would be exactly symmetrical, you would immediately feel that something is not right. That's the strange thing. We still call it symmetrical, but if it would be exactly 100% symmetrical, it would not be right. And what Tom and I would like you to think about it is that could be both challenging in a dance form, where you want to be exactly symmetrical, and, play with it. We're not saying you should always be symmetrical, asymmetrical. It's just know these two elements and then try to do something with it. See, I move kind of symmetrical in the air, but it's not 100% symmetrical, because if I would do it exactly symmetrical, you would think, wow, this man is moving really weird how he talks now. But if I do it more like this, it's still symmetrical. But for Ton's eyes, like, yeah, it's actually not 100% symmetrical. I'm symmetrical in space, but I'm asymmetrical in form. Do you see how
Mm.
quickly we now can play with just those two elements?
Yes. And what we can do on the dance floor with it. So then I
Yes.
have go a
Yes.
few steps further back, Sean.
Yeah.
Um, I start with the body, the my whole body,
Mm-hmm.
and each person is unique.
Mm-hmm.
And I put this body in 10 points where the biggest turners are in the joints,
Yeah.
and like the head, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, and I build it because a body is built up bilateral. It's in the anatomy. So they say actually B, it's two sides. And you have unilateral. Uni means one. It's one side.
Mm-hmm.
If you use one side of the body, it's and from the 10 points, hands or fingers or
Yeah.
shoulder, then it's automatically asymmetric.
Yes.
When you use them at the same time, exactly in the same form, in the same time,
Yeah.
then it's completely symmetric because in time you can also go asymmetric. But I will not continue on that one. So when I go to the dance floor and I would only dance symmetrically, then it would quite get boring for once. So it's the combination of asymmetry and yes, Sean is doing with the finger. um, the asymmetry and the symmetry on the floor, the combinations of that floor, that makes it exciting and the variation. But sometimes you can also ignore that because you are an artist and you want only to work in symmetry and only to work in asymmetry. So what I try, and this is the beauty of the personality to make choices in that one.
Yeah.
So I try to find tools,
Yeah.
and with that tools, I try to open the doors for the people who are explain it, that they can use
Yeah.
themselves these tools and make their
Yeah.
own art
Yeah.
instead
Beautiful.
of I explain them what they exactly must do, then they just would follow it.
Yeah.
No, I want that they, because the body is the bigger instrument. That's your instrument, and the brain, your conscious or unconscious, make decisions for that body.
Yep.
And but the
Not
relationship
always.
of that two, is it's the most important.
Yeah.
So if you understand that and you could feel that on the floor what you use,
Yeah.
then you make a big step. But otherwise, around two, what you feel, you can understand.
Yeah.
And it's going hand in hand. And this is what we did with our previous podcast, the personality, and we spoke about dualism, but actually it isn't because you need both.
Yeah, you definitely need both. Yeah. So here you have again Tom went, and in this in the, if you look, if you would understand Dutch, we would highly advise you also to listen to the Dutch podcast, because we often do our podcast in two languages, but they turn always out to be a slightly different episode, which is funny because in the Dutch podcast we started with movement in itself, and you can even break movement if you ask them in how many movements you can make, then probably what someone would say infinite. And we say, well, you can make an infinite of combinations of movement, and there are only three elements of movement. And then people would say, no, that's impossible, Sean Ton. Now you kind of lost us. No, Ton says you can. What are the three elements, Ton, that you identified you can make? Only three.
Bending, extending,
And
and
flexion.
rotating,
Yeah.
or bend, stretch, rotate.
Yeah, so there are not wherever you are in your body that you cannot do more than those three. You can, of course, with three, you can already make, and then if you combine it with the 10 body parts that Tom mentioned really quickly, you can make an infinite amount of combination. Combine it then with geometrical and organic movements, and combine it with symmetrical and asymmetrical. And I'm sure that I lost you already, so it says fast go. That's when it becomes and it's not something that you have to learn, by the way, because we already do that. What we talk about is, can you recognize them first? And when you
Yeah,
recognize
recognize the
them,
pattern.
yeah, and then when you
Yes,
recognize, you can choose to change. Not our choice.
yes. You
Your
can break that pattern then, what you do normally. And
repeat
when you
it.
not recognize it,
Yeah,
then you have no influence on it.
yeah,
And I create options for you. And when you have options, you can
yeah,
choose. If you
yeah,
not have an option, you can only follow.
yeah, yeah. And in of course in the Dutch podcast, we talked a little about by bending and side bending, which is the anatomical way of explaining it. So, yeah, okay, you could arguably say no, Jean, there are four ways of movement. That's fine. Well, we go with you. If you want to go there, that's great. But not more than that. That's it. And so we didn't even go really far in the book G.E.M already, and you already see that the influence that you can have on your
Yeah.
movement.
We just there on the first, what is it, 20 pages from
Something like that. Something like that.
230 pages. So I did only 20 of them. It's so rich on information. This is why I spent this 15,000 hours to understand it.
Yeah,
And then also the beauty of it is I do it in a practical way, not only in a theory, in a
yeah,
practical way.
yeah,
And then you can create really art on a different perspective of dance. And this is why I called my book like that, Dance from a Different Perspective.
yeah,
And I want not to make followers from people. I want to make creators from them, and I give them tools. And when they have tools, they can create their own art. And this
yeah,
is already what we're doing. And this is why painters are looking what they can bring different on that canvas, not only in the color, but also how they use the space on that canvas.
yeah,
Very interesting. And we had an interview with a painter, and it's really interesting to hear
yeah,
uh, how he worked
yeah.
with it.
Alessandro, and by the way, this painter happened to be also a dancer. And
Mhm.
so we have definitely we haven't broadcast them all yet. We still have a few to go, but we definitely had also other interviews, which is great. Talking about putting it into practice, we're definitely not at the end of the podcast, but I want to mention it to you anyhow, Tom, because you almost forget. If you listen to this podcast before December the 2nd, 2023, then to put all this into real practice, Ton has organized, a beautiful seminar in Berlin, and it starts on December 2nd and third, right? Very limited. We could let you in if you're interested, but more interesting maybe than that is that yes, a book is a book, and it is only a theory, but you need to understand first before you can observe. That is, someone else said that, a guy named Carlo Ravelli. We talked about that. What Ton always says as well: the mind goes first. You see, when you understand it, you can see it. I hope now you can see what I do. How do we call this? Symmetric, right? How do we do? I'm doing symmetrical movements, but I have asymmetrical forms. I hope you can see how quickly we now can do that. And now you start to see it. That's the magic. I made you help you to see it. Now, Ton is putting that in practice, giving you the theory, putting that in practice in a 2 day seminar in Berlin. It will be the first one, right, Ton? Your first gym?
Yeah, my first one. I work since begin October.
Yeah.
I I work every day in the morning already, sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I work about 5, 6 hours a day to
Yeah.
make it a success
Yeah.
for the other ones, but mainly also for myself because
Yeah.
it's also the first time that I'm doing this, and this is because I live in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 6, 7 hours away from my place in Germany, in Berlin, and it's exciting also for myself.
Yeah.
But
Why
it's
Berlin?
why Berlin? Berlin, it's more the heart of Europe, I would say. But also my friend lives there, Peter Mangelsdorf,
Yeah.
and I'm quite happy that I know him. He saved my life, and also his friend Sylvia Schiffer. And because I had a big tumor in my head,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm a little bit off topic now.
That's okay.
And actually, I had 3 brain surgeries, and they helped me a lot. And also another good friend, Els Gevert,
Another good friend.
she
Another
also
good
another
friend.
from
Another
from
good
the
friend.
Netherlands. So this why we came. This is how I came in Berlin,
Mm-hmm.
and I had 9 difficult months. I could only a little bit walk, and there was a time in 6, 7 months that I wanted not to live anymore. But through the gem, it helped me. My friends helped me, and this is why I held it in Berlin. I want also to go to Dallas or to Paris or to South Africa. And yes, this is why I came to Berlin to my good friend. He has a dance school there. I can use his school there, his space, his venue. It's a beautiful venue on the most beautiful places in Berlin. Am Tegeler See. It's uh, it's the
It's
second
gorgeous.
largest sea in in uh,
Germany.
in Germany, in Berlin,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really, really wonderful. So I'm really glad and proud that I can be there. So this is Berlin, and we have 16 hours of development and 16 hours of discovering yourself and giving 16 hours of new targets in the future for yourself. And if you can find them, then I'm the most happy man here because then I change somebody's path a little bit. And if I can change somebody's path in their life, then yeah, something magic will happen. And
Yeah. Or
that's the beauty of it.
influence the path.
Influence.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
Berlin happened to coincide with another big event that's going there too. So
Yes.
that is a thing. Berlin sounds, incredibly far away from Kerkrade, where Ton lives. It's 6 hours. I'm from Dallas, so I think that's a little bit, going from Dallas north to Houston south. That is 6 hours drive. Oh yeah, that's not so far. So for European, like, oh, it's all the way in Berlin. And for
Yes, yes,
if you're
yes.
if you're from Texas like me, you think, okay, well, that, yeah, that's there. It's I'm incredibly proud of you, Tom, that you put that. I know how many hours you put in there, and I will
Probably 300-400 hours, John, I think, for
again,
one seminar of 16 hours.
yeah, that's
Some
great.
people would say, you are crazy.
Mm,
Why? Go for the money. No, no. I go for the development. I get rich through the research.
yeah,
I practice since September with my children here because when children understand it, then I know it works. And now I can try it with the adults. And
yeah. It's
yeah,
great.
that's
It's great. Yeah,
it's
there
fantastic.
will be other teachers, coaches there. There will actually be a few students. We'll take some few students with us, so we can see it from all levels and all perspectives, so to speak. So that is on December 2nd and 3rd in Berlin. 2023, I have to say, because we're not sure, of course, when you listen to this podcast, but we'll actually post it today immediately, so chances are big that you hear it already before the time.
Mhm.
And if you're really still interested, you can either contact Tom through his website, or you can contact us through our podcast. So that's what I wanted to say. I think it
Yes.
will be a great adventure. That we will meet friends also who actually helped developing Dance Jam through the mastermind
Mhm.
that we did. So I'm looking forward to it. It's actually only a
Yes.
week from now, Tom. In a week from now, we are
Yes,
not
yes.
virtual together, but a week from now, we are literally together in Berlin.
Yeah, correct, Sean. It's
Yeah,
only 1 week. And for who is it available? It's available for teachers, for choreographers, for dancers.
yeah,
And it would be nice if you would have experience, even for hip hoppers, they could join, and contemporary and
dancers of all kinds. Yeah,
ballroom and Latin dancers.
yeah.
So actually, the method is available for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and it will definitely uh, blow you away.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah,
about that one.
well, yeah, definitely. I hope so. Now we're already a little bit on the commercial side, so to speak, as well.
Yeah,
So if you
sorry.
can make it,
Yes.
if you can make it in Berlin on the 2nd and 3rd, do know that that Ton and I, depends a little bit on what you want, can come to you as well, and that could be even for private lessons, or we can do a similar seminar, at your place. So no, this podcast goes worldwide. So I just wanted to say that Tom definitely has a plan to roll this out worldwide. We're already thinking about Dallas. We're thinking about other places in Europe and Asia. But it doesn't have to come from our initiative. If you think, hey, it's interesting. I saw the book of Tom already. I've seen his choreographies. We would like to learn and get our dance pet be influenced. Then
Mhm.
more than willing, either Ton or we both come to you as well. Um, yeah. So what is next, Ton? What is we spend a lot of time on form. We can only do so much in 45 minutes of a podcast. It's how much is the book? It's 234 in the English version, 234 pages. It's a little bit more in
Yes.
German. Um,
Yes. After Berlin, I go now to China. From
okay.
China, I stay a week there. Then I go 4 days to Hong Kong, come back, and then I go to Austria. So busy life, but that's the beauty of it. I can enjoy that one. It's hard working. And next year, 24, yes, I want to go around in the world. Denmark, Ireland, what you said, Sean, and bring the method there and
Yeah.
open some eyes for other people
Yeah.
and try to inspire them. Of course, I will inspire first myself, and I can inspire other
Yeah.
people, hopefully.
Cool. It's
And
really good.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
So
so
yeah,
proud that we can do this together.
no, no, definitely. I feel honored by it that we can both combine our experiences and knowledge and bring your method to the world. It gives also a little bit more background. I realize that maybe we should have said that also in the Dutch podcast, but it gives also a little bit more background why dance gems are there. Most of the topics that we talk about, you can actually find also in the book. We just expand a little bit more on a couple of
Mm.
things. Sometimes we go a little bit away from it, but it gives us a little bit the philosophy or at least the belief that Ton and I have about around some things. So I'm not sure if we already placed it, but we have a podcast, for instance, on body shaming, you know, which is not directly in the book, but actually, if you read the philosophy behind Dance Gems, you can actually also see Ton and maybe even my character in what we stand for, and it is freedom of choice and therefore freedom of movement. If you want to play it in the Latin, traditional Latin world, we are totally cool with that, right? You want to just do something completely, new and experimental, fine too. It is always your choice and your decisions that you have to make, and that is what Dance Gems truly stands for. It gives you more tools
Mm.
to make more decisions according what you want. That's
Yes, and how more options you have, how more you can choose.
Yes, yes, exactly, Tom. So that in itself also said that the development of dance jams, or and whether that's dance jams, Tom and Jean, or whether it's dance some method, it will never stop, because we would not say that we put down all the options already. We probably find more.
No, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
This is why I put it or bring it back to the beginning. A
Yes,
line,
nice.
a curve,
Yeah,
bending, stretching, rotating. So actually, we create options, but we give also a view where it can lead to.
yep, yeah,
And
yeah,
but it's up to you always to be a creator, not a follower. That's the highest goal, to be a creator. To
yep.
follow, it's also good. You need both. We had a podcast about following and
Yeah,
creating. We
we
had
did.
this
Yeah, we
already.
did. Yeah, we did.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
we did. Yeah, there's
it's
no
in
right and
one of
wrong.
the earlier
Yeah,
episodes. No,
yeah.
there isn't.
Sometimes, yeah,
There not
sometimes, yeah,
exist.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
that's definitely a good learning step to follow. It's a good step to learn how to
Mm.
mirror someone. It's a very good learning step, and but of course, we're dancers, we're artists, and we're curious what you create from this new knowledge. Gladly bring it to you, and which also bring us to the end of this podcast. I know you always have to teach after this, Ton. It
Yes,
was
I
it
know.
was my pleasure to learn more about it. Every time when I talk to you, and I think I know everything about your method, then I still learn new things. That is the beauty of it. Yeah, I am looking forward, to next week. If you listen it in real time, then you know what next week is, in Berlin. And with that, I'm already saying to all our listeners, bye bye. Um, maybe you have some closing words for us.
Yes, search yourself, find yourself, develop yourself, and try how more difficult it is for you, how I would say how more challenging it is for you to get out of that, and how more you will grow from it.
All
If you
right.
not have difficulties, how you want to grow. So try to make it so difficult as possible for you, that you will grow.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for listening. Be there because you came till the end, and yeah,
Yes.
great. Thank you
Great.
very much, Sean.
All
Also for
right.
the interview. It was really fantastic.
All right. So we'll see you, of course, in another episode of Dance Jam with another topic. For today, we're going to start the music, and then we say to you, bye bye. This was Dance Jam with Jam
Yes,
Dance
bye
from
bye.
a different
Yes.
perspective. Yeah, I almost forgot. Of course, you can find us on Spotify under Dance Jams. I almost forgot to tell you, so let me do that for a little bit as well. And of course, on YouTube and on our website. And then one more time from Ton and me. Bye bye.
Bye bye.